Right, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Falcon Punchcast. As always, it is I, Mr. Falcon Punch, aka Shaheen, once again joined by my friend Hamza, aka Darth Messiah.
Hello, I am the Samwise Gamgee to Shaheen's Frodo Baggins.
All right, and
Yeah.
that's a good way to start off how we're going to be forming this podcast in particular. I guess this is going to be more of a sub show to the regular Falcon Punchcast because, generally with the Falcon Punchcast, we talk about a variety of nerdy topics: anime, manga, comics, tokusatsu, mainly anime and manga. But Hamza and I, when we're trying to come back with the podcast, Hamza brought up a good idea of kind of having like a quote unquote like normie corner where together, mainly me, because as discussed in previous podcasts, I don't really watch a lot of movies. And so I have a lot of like blind spots with really iconic movies out there. So together we could watch these movies and discuss them and see how, a weeb handles these iconic movies. So originally it was just going to be called like Normie Corner, and it was going to be like a separate podcast, but both my channel and this podcast are not that big. So we're just going to add this Normie Corner as a thing we do every couple podcasts or so, if it really takes off. But we decided to start it off with Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings?
Yeah, Lord of the Rings, the first movie, which is Fellowship of the Ring. Yes.
Okay, I don't know, because then like I was saying Fellowship of the Rings, I'm like, wait, was it like the Fellowship? And then I was like, Fellowship of the Brotherhood. I'm like, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Two words both mean the same thing.
Right,
Yeah.
so
It's
we decided to start off with that movie just because I've been in a fantasy mood lately, and despite that, I have yet to experience one of the most iconic fantasy stories of all time, so decided to give that a shot. And
the series that like is the progenitor of like most things fantasy. Not all, I don't think it's all, but like I think a lot of things fantasy that we just take for granted, like elves, goblins, orcs, all of that stuff. So yeah, I will be dropping. So we're mainly going to go through the movie chronologically, and Shaheen's going to be giving his thoughts. I have the movie in front of me. We're not going to go minute by minute. This is like a 3-hour, 48-minute movie. We're just going to hit highlights of each
we're watching the extended edition.
Yeah, we're watching the extended edition as well. So we're not watching the theatrical. So we're just going to go like, highlights of each, part. Like we're going to hit the Shire. We're going to hit other, like Shire, Moria, all that stuff. And we're going to mainly go through Shaheen's, like, what his thoughts were of the movie, what he experienced. And, like, I'm just going to be, like, basically your Tolkien, like, lore guy.
All right, we got our lore master, and then we got just this plebeian weeb.
Use the term master very loosely. All I watched was, like, 5 YouTube videos.
Lore apprentice.
Yeah, I just saw like 5 YouTube videos of things that like I was curious about myself, or like I remember because like obviously I've watched Lord of the Rings many times. This is probably like I don't know my 10th ever like watch through again, but this is the first time I'm doing it with someone else. Before I used to do it alone by myself. But like so like there are certain things that like I wanted to know about, so I researched before, and it's been a while, so I looked up those videos again. Like it's just YouTube videos of like things that like the movie unfortunately doesn't have time to explain, so I looked it up myself, and I think it adds pretty interesting stuff, like or Aragorn's lineage. What did Gandalf mean when he gave his speech at the end? And we'll get into that once we get there. Yeah.
Right. So that's the setup for this. Again, we'll probably go. After this podcast, we'll go back to our more normal anime and manga.
Yeah, if this is successful, we plan to like do obviously the full trilogy if you guys like it and respond to it well. And then also like other movies, maybe TV shows. TV shows we still have to figure out. I don't think we can because it's like the watch time is just way too long. Maybe you could do it season by season, maybe. But like movies definitely because Shaheen has not seen so many movies. I mean, the fact that he hasn't seen Lord of the Rings is like. That's how, like, that's how low the bar is, people.
I mean, like, I've seen some iconic movies. Like, I've seen Jurassic Park, I've seen Scarface, I've seen Jaws.
Yeah. I haven't seen Jaws, so, like, you've got one up on me. I haven't seen E.T. either, so, like, that's something for me. So it could be both of our normie corners, who knows?
Okay, to be honest with Jaws, though, I don't think I saw the ending.
But that's like the best. That's where the shark comes in.
Well, see, okay, I don't think I saw the last 20 minutes because it was way back in the day. I think I was watching it pirated on like one of those streaming sites.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the last 20 minutes just would not load. So I just never finished it. I watched all that movie. I had all that build off, no payoff.
Oh god!
I have Jaws blue balls, but yeah.
Well, at least you finished all 3 hours and 48 minutes of this. So.
Oh yes, yeah. I saw the whole movie.
Yeah.
I wished I saw all in one setting, but like I was trying to watch it last night. I thought I had 50 minutes left. It turned out I could have just breezed through it the previous night because technically I only had like 20 minutes to watch, and then the rest was all credits. So it was like 20 minutes worth of credits. I'm like, damn. Imagine waiting for like an end credit scene with that shit.
Even I saw it over the course of 2 days, and I stopped at a particular point, but just before Shaheen's point, like around the same time. But then, I was even surprised. Like, wait, there's a good chunk of video left, and it's like, oh, it's just 20 minutes worth of credits. Fun fact: they actually shot all 3 movies together over the course of like 2-3 years.
Really?
Yeah. So that's how so they shot it all at once over the course of 2 to 3 years, and then they released it one by one. So that was the plan, to like shoot it all at once and then divide it into 3 movies later, like the books. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then the interesting note for I guess we can dive into it. So the prologue, we start with the monologue, like, hey, the world has changed, and giving the history of the last alliance between elves and men. Apparently, this whole prologue that you see was shot at the very end because they realized that, we have to explain everything. The movie was just going to start in the Shire and go from there, but then oh no, we need to give context to everything. So this is one of the last things they shot, which is why? How is this not obvious that you needed scenes like this? So yeah, we're just going through the making of the rings, the last battle of the last alliance of elves and men at Mordor. In the books, apparently, according to lore, this was like a 7-year siege.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if it was referred to the movie, but some of the basic knowledge I have, I remember something about some 7-year war.
Yeah, so so this war was 7 years. In the movie, we just go through it, and I thought it was this was just one decisive final battle, but no, it took 7 years. Sauron only came out at the end. So yeah, so what are your thoughts so far on the prologue and everything? Yeah.
Well, see, this is where my smooth wee brain comes in, because they're doing this whole prologue and there's this great war with this evil demon Dark Lord, but he was taken down, and I'm like, wow, this feels like a JRPG. Especially throughout the movie, you're a little character in a small village, and you get your party, and eventually you're going to level up. I'm like, oh my god.
I mean, to be fair, I've experienced that too. When I was watching Path Labor, and someone threw a robot arm at another mech. He goes rocket punch, and then when I saw Shin Mazinger Z the anime, and he goes rocket punch, and I'm like, oh, they're doing the Path Labor thing, and Shaheen just died inside when I told him that. He's like, no, you have it backwards.
I mean, people don't believe it when I tell them, but I honestly think next to the Kamehameha, Rocket Punch is definitely up there with most iconic anime attack.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Because it's used in so much anime, so much. But I don't know. I guess it doesn't have the same iconic. A lot of Mazinger Z's
can, because they're so iconic. Breastfire, I can easily see as well being used a lot and stuff. But yeah, Rocket Punch is Rocket Punch is the most obvious. It's just fifth.
Yeah, people just say it for wholesale. I've seen people just be like Rocket Punch. Oh, okay. They're not trying to hide the name. Be like, oh, Missile Punch, Torpedo Knuckle. But going back to Lord of the Rings, because after that prologue, we're in the Shire with Bilbo Baggins, which Bilbo, I have a little bit.
Before we go there in the Shire, what did you think of Sauron's design?
Oh yeah, it was really cool. My fucking head. I swear, there's some Lord of the Rings fanatic out there that's being like, this fucking. I'm like, wow, he looks like a Final Fantasy character.
Oh my god. This is technically an anime podcast first and foremost, an otaku podcast. So, like, we're gonna have to connect. Free run's gonna come up, folks. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because over the past, like, I keep on saying 2 years. It's probably been longer than 2 years, but like for the past 4 years or so, I've been really into fantasy. Yeah, and I think also part of it why I was also really thoroughly entertained with this movie. I don't know, man. There's something about me. My heart yearns for open grassy fields and mountains, which is what you normally find in this fantasy stuff.
Yeah. So Sauron's design where he's just like whipping people with maces, and then we ended up with the ring gets lost. I think 2,000 years pass, and then now we're in the Shire, so Shaheen loved this part. This is the part where most people say, "Oh my god, it's boring. It's taking so long." But no, I'm glad to hear that Shaheen had a great time. This place actually exists. You can visit it in New Zealand.
Right, I've heard about that. The whole Shire I really like, again, because I love the grassy field. Like the Shire, I'm like, man, I wouldn't mind being a little dude and living here barefoot. Just they're all barefoot. They're just like walking around, no shoes, chilling. They're drinking, they're eating, they're smoking, they're tilling the land. Yeah.
And Bilbo has this wonderful monologue and stuff, and then what do you call it? So in the theatrical version, there's a lot of scenes with Bilbo that were not in it, and Shaheen was surprised to hear that because Bilbo's just explaining his book and his little bit snippets of his journey that he went in before when he met Gandalf and became friends, and then a little bit about Frodo and stuff. But Shaheen was surprised to find out that stuff is not in the theatrical trailer. It just starts with Frodo sitting on the grass reading a book.
Yeah, I know it's kind of surprising because Bilbo, I have a little bit more knowledge on just because when I was in elementary school, I did watch the animated.
Oh, you watched the animated?
Yeah, I went to summer school, and I guess there's this I think our last Friday, fuck it, we're not going to teach you anything, even though we made you come to school anyway. So we're just going to watch a movie and have ice cream. And so we saw the animated Hobbit movie.
Okay. All right, so you are familiar about the adventure he's talking about with the dragon and all of that stuff.
Yeah, like Smaug and
all
that. Yeah, so I saw that, and then I think there was a Hobbit game on the PS2 that I played for a bit when I was younger.
Really?
So I kind of know a bit about Bilbo. I think he has a sword named Sting or something like that.
Yeah, that's the sword that if he eventually gives to Frodo, that becomes the iconic Lord of the Rings sword. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that much about it, but then the whole thing with Frodo, that was all brand new to me. So his whole journey throughout this, because I was thinking about I could have sworn I seen this movie as a kid, and I just got bored because it was really long.
Yeah.
I remember nothing, and I'm starting to think in the back of my head maybe I watched the second one.
Who knows? If you go to the second one, you'll see. Then maybe you'll
which
get that.
Would also add to my confusion as a kid, which is also why I probably put off this movie for the longest time. I'm like, yeah, I remember watching this as a kid, being kind of like, what the fuck is going on? So yeah, if I watched the third or second, 3-hour movie as a kid with no knowledge of the previous ones, yeah, of course I'm going to be like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah. And then Shaheen has one scene that apparently he just could not. Wrote down weed.
Yeah, so I have my notes. Slightly disappointing, Hamza. My notes are not really that detailed. My notes are literally just quick thoughts that popped into my head that I decided to write down. Literally the first one is JRPG intro. I want to live in the Shire. Weed smokers. Because they're all laying around smoking their pipe weed, and I'm like, they call it pipe weed. I'm like, oh, I'm surprised they call it weed. I thought they would have made up some other
another word for it. Yeah,
because especially back then, weed was still pretty demoralized in society.
Yeah. So that was interesting. Even the other wizard Saruman makes fun of him. It's like, oh, you have a penchant for the Hobbit's leaf. And Gandalf's like, I like getting high. What do you?
I love getting high with my little bros with their feet out, little freaks. Show my little funky fireworks to them.
Yeah, and then it's Bilbo's birthday, his 111th.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I remember. Yes. And then we also meet the little rascals, Pippin and Merry.
Yeah, see, that was another thing I wrote down. I just love how everyone has, this high fantasy name, Bilbo, Pippin, Frodo, Gandalf, all this. Yeah. And then there's a guy named Sam.
Yeah, I think Honest Trailers made the same joke. It's like everybody has like really complicated names, and then there's just Sam. His full name is Sam Wise, but everyone just calls him Sam. Yeah,
but just Sam, who's like a total bro. Throughout this movie.
Yeah, he is the MVP in my opinion of Lord of the Rings. He's just the unsung hero because all the credit goes to Frodo, rightfully so. I mean, he does suffer a lot, but especially in the third movie, you're gonna be like that. You love Samwise now. You're gonna like die for him in like the third movie.
Yeah, because I remember going into this movie, I'm like, Gandalf is going to be like the MVP. But then after a while, I'm like, no, this Sam guy, he's a bro. Me, I love my bro characters in anime and manga. I'm like, yeah, this Sam guy. And Gandalf is just like, yo, dude, you gotta watch over Frodo. He took that personally. He's like, all right.
Yeah. All right, and then we go to the scene with Gandalf trying to convince Bilbo to leave. I don't know, give him the ring, give the ring to Frodo, but Bilbo is just not having it, and even calls it my precious.
Yeah, that stuff was surprisingly very scary because I knew of Gollum and the brief bits you see and hear of him are kind of disturbing. Even still to this day, I'm like,
still to this day. Even as a kid, I found Gollum to be the most terrifying thing. You get used to him in the second and third movie, but in the first movie, they barely show him, and you're always like, what the fuck is that thing?
Because you see him getting tortured, and you just see his arms flailing, and it's like, oh my god, what is that?
Frodo? No, what is
it? Yeah, that's why I'm just like, I'm actually kind of glad I didn't see this as a kid because I know that shit would have freaked me out, and especially that between that and there's just the way people freak out when they get kind of tempted by the ring. I know as a kid that would have just really disturbed me. I would be like, oh no.
Yeah, and then we get scenes where Gandalf is trying to figure out if it is the One Ring or if it's just a magical ring. So I've looked into some lore of this because everybody was complaining shouldn't Gandalf have known that it was the one the One Ring to rule them all. But apparently, number one is that people were Bilbo doesn't age. Shouldn't that have been a clue? So Bilbo comes from a line of hobbits that have lived long. One of his ancestors, I think, or grandfathers lived to 130. So he was Bilbo's living long. It's in his family. He kind of ignored it. What gave him the hint was that after 6 years, you see it in the movies, you haven't aged a day. Right? So that gives him the first hint that something is not right. Bilbo has something that is keeping him young and stuff.
They kind of hint at that because I remember there's this other family members that are kind of after Bilbo throughout the beginning because they want his house and he's like, well, I've lived too long.
Yeah, and he mentions it that the thing is that off the magical rings that were created, you see in the beginning, 7 to the dwarves, lords, 9 to the men, 3 to the elves. Those are the rings of power. Those are the ones with a jewel in them, and they're the main powerful rings. Gandalf has one of them. One of them was given to the elves. Gandalf has it on him, and Galadriel has one. You get see that in the movie. So there were a lot of other rings that were made without jewels in them, and they were lesser rings, and we don't know how many there were, and they were without jewels in them. And the elves didn't really think much of it because they weren't that powerful, but Gandalf mentions, I think it's in the book, or one of the books that Tolkien wrote, that they are nothing to the elves, but to a mortal, it could do a lot of things. So he assumed that it was one of those lesser rings that he got. It wasn't until the aging thing, and then when he was started getting rumors that hey Sauron's coming back, and then he notices like a lot of spies are like going around the Shire and stuff, and then when he obviously goes and researches about the ring and he sees the writing of Black Speech on the ring, that he confirms like okay no this is the One Ring, and then the precious thing. Because Gandalf knows about Gollum and the word precious and stuff, so yeah, we see that. That was like, I was surprised, like, my god, this still holds up, it's really tense, and stuff, and yeah, we see Gollum get tortured, and then, here's my, what did you think of the Nazgul, the Wraith, the Wraiths, the Ring Wraiths? Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were pretty cool. See, I knew about the Ring Wraiths because, as a kid, I remember at one of my book fairs, I used to always get these monster books that had like all these monsters from like various points of history. But I guess like at certain points in these books, they'll just run out of like cultural monsters. They'll be like, here's a monster from a movie. So, and one of them is like Ring Wraith. So I kind of knew about like who they were. Because I remember Ring Wraith and Sauron were like, they showed up in a couple of those books.
Really? Okay.
They gave like a little backstory and some fun facts about them.
Yeah. Me, to this day, I'm like, still like, it's such... The design is so good, but it has so little. Like, it's just black cloak, black nothing, and like those like armor things that they wear, like those like sharp armor things on their hands and their feet and stuff. And just like the theme song, the Nazgul theme, they play it a lot. I realized when I was rewatching, I'm like, oh, they played this a lot.
Well, for like a good portion of the movie, they're like chasing him.
True. Yes. Yeah.
Because like there's just something about like a dark cloaked figure following you that's always creepy. Because like, I guess as a kid, well, Harry Potter, you had like the Dementors, which were kind of like flying versions of that. So there's always something like, at least because of that I saw that as a kid to this, there's still that like fear that's held on of just like these cloaked figures just like chasing you.
And I didn't notice before, the hooves of the black horses they're on have like nails in them. Or the horses undead? I don't know, but like like that was like interesting to like see. Like I don't know, maybe the horses themselves have been tortured or something or whatever. Yeah,
like it looks scarred up and everything, and then like the bugs and everything on them. And it's,
Oh my god, I love the Nazgul. Like they're so cool. Oh, also before we're jumping ahead a little bit, I just want to rewind a bit. So you see Christopher Lee, the great Christopher Lee, rest in peace. And you see him like have the wizard fight with Gandalf, and like it's like, oh my god, it's like really obvious that he's evil. Like long dark tower, long like like he's got nails.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, like sharp nails, and then like dark staff, and then they have an old man wizard fight.
Okay, see, I don't know, maybe my anime fantasy has spoiled me. I'm like, they're just pushing each other around.
Yeah, even I was disappointed.
Magic was kind of disappointing in this movie for me. The ring just makes you invisible. The magic is like, they're just psychically pushing each other.
Yeah, I was disappointed by that, especially since I'm watching Mob Psycho right now. I know it's not magic, but still, it's like, oh wow, this is...
I mean, you saw like a bit of like Freyrin.
Right, yeah, even in Freyrin, right? Like, yeah, the magic in that is like magic. Yeah, so like, Freyrin is a better comparison. Like, and stuff, so yeah. Yeah, so there's not a lot of magic in this, yeah.
Yeah, there's no fireballs, there's no beam struggles,
Yeah, so yeah, we see the Nazgul chasing the hobbits around. Again, awesome design. And then we go to the Prancing Pony. And yeah, we meet Strider.
I'm like, man, this is such like a fantasy. Like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, like this is where you meet the guy who's going to help you out and give you like equipment and stuff and like teach you about the world. Yeah.
Like there's so, because I know you don't play a lot of JRPGs, but there's so many JRPGs where there's just that moment where you get the new party member when you like he joins your party, he just has all the cool moves and like better equipment than you, which is essentially what this guy is. It's like, oh, finally a character that can actually kick ass.
So yeah, okay. So we're not going to dive into like specific scenes too much, but I have to talk about this. The scene where the Nazgul go into the prancing pony and start stabbing the beds. Like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, oh my god, these things are terrifying. And it's a fake out. They're in the opposite building, which I'm like, you just couldn't stay like 5 more minutes just to like check around. But they left the what do you call the place, and then we get the famous second breakfast scene.
Oh yeah, so I was telling Hamza this. I didn't realize how many memes came from the movie, and then even then, how many of those memes? Because I thought some of these memes were like scattered throughout the trilogy, but no, it was like all in this movie. Because I remember there's like second breakfast, then there was after all, like why can't I have it? And then what was the other one?
One does not simply walk into Mordor, and it's like so they just
I was telling Hamza about this. The one does not simply cross through Mordor. I didn't even know that was a fucking Lord of the Rings meme because I've never seen the original context for it. And I was telling Hamza, I don't know why in my brain, I guess I blocked out that the fucking guy is wearing medieval clothing. I thought because the way he looked, like the way his face was, and I guess like the
colors,
his pose. I just thought it was like the same category as like the aliens guy, like that meme. Like I thought it was like another History Channel. Yeah, I thought it was another History Channel guy that was like doing some weird theories. Like one does not simply do this. So that's where I was like, oh my god, that came from this movie. Because I remember I was like looking at this guy. I'm like, this guy kind of looks familiar.
I don't know how you do not know Sean Bean. Like he is like the if he's in a movie he's gonna die. He's that guy. Like that's the
other movie. I've always heard of that.
Oh, okay. But, so
like,
GoldenEye, he's like the James Bond.
GoldenEye.
Game of Thrones, he's Ned Stark. You haven't seen
Game of Thrones.
I'm trying to think. He's been in he's in Percy Jackson. He's Zeus.
Okay, but see, he doesn't die in that one.
He doesn't die in that one, but like that's what he's known for. Like he dies a lot. He dies in this.
Also, the Percy Jackson movie. As a big Percy Jackson fan, I tend to try to forget those movies.
No, true. Yeah. So it's like one of the most famous actors, and you're like, I have no idea what this guy.
I always heard of that. Okay, just so you know how much of a blind spot I have with movies in general. I've seen the Matrix movies. I've seen all of them except the Animatrix. I didn't know the Agent Smith guy. I don't know his name.
Oh my god!
I didn't know he was in this movie because he pops up. I'm like, oh my god, it's Agent Smith. I didn't know he was an elf.
Oh my god! See, this is what the show will do. It'll help you fix your pop culture gaps and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we go back to Isengard, and I love that voice. Build me an army worthy of Mordor. Yes. Then you see Saruman just taking down trees and stuff. He's gonna start industrializing. There's a big theme in Lord of the Rings about industrialization and the ruining of the environment. You're gonna see that theme. You don't see it as much in the first movie. Second and third, it's heavily there. The environment's getting destroyed because of machinery and industrialization. And then we get our first fight scene where the Nazgul meet the hobbits and are this close to the ring. So what are your thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, I feel like I like the action, but there's I'm not sure because you're more of an action movie head than me.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you felt the same way, but throughout the movie, there's these bits of kind of fast motion, but not really. When characters are running or action, and it always kind of took it out of me because it feels like I feel like I've seen those plenty in Toku, and Toku, I love Toku, but it's a bit cheaper, so it's weird and this big budget movie, and they're just doing that. I'm like, why?
Yeah, I don't blame them because it's first of all, it's a sword fight. It's 1v I think 5 Nazgul were in the scene. And it's you're not watching it for the action. You're watching it for the full fantasy journey and stuff. So I don't blame them that much. Whatever action is there, I think it's fine. It does the job that it needs to do. It's not shaky cam, which thank God it's not. It's more so quick cuts, but it's not shaky. But it's more so like they're trying to like show you multiple things they're having in very quick succession. There's no like duel that's like
there's not like there's not necessarily like an action scene throughout this whole movie where like I'm gonna be like I'm not sure because like, I think one of the movies, I think the third one just has like a huge big war scene that like I remember hearing film people talk about. So I don't know, maybe
that's in the second and third have two big battles. We'll get to that, Battle of Helm's Deep and Battle of the Pelennor Fields. That you're going to get goosebumps and shit bricks. But it's not in the first movie. But like, trust me, we're once you see those,
so it builds up to that. Because like, I think maybe because I've always heard of that, I was expecting a little bit more from the action from the movie, and like this is serviceable. It's not bad by any means, but I'm like, this is not what I was necessarily expecting from it. And like, there's a couple like kind of skipping way far ahead a bit, but like the whole "You Shall Not Pass" scene, I thought was like. I mean, it was kind of epic, but all it results to is like a bridge falling. I'm like, I thought this was more like, I don't know.
Well, I still like it. I still get goosebumps in that scene. But and when I give you maybe the context, maybe it'll like, I don't know, like elevate. But like that, there's a lot of lore in that. It's like, and it's very subtle. Like I think I was like reading the comments of that scene. Okay, we're just kind of skipping far ahead, but like. In Narnia, like the religious allegories are like very obvious, but in like Tolkien, they're very subtle. Like if you don't know what you're looking at, you can easily miss it. And so, like, when I give you the context for that scene, like a lot of extra lore. Like for example, the speech he gives is like has so much in it. Then I like once we get to that, we'll get. But we get our first action scene. Our Strider fighting the Nazgul. My favorite scene is when he just throws the torch. As a kid, I didn't notice it, but as an adult, the cut is noticeable. Where it's like, oh, okay, they switched the dummy. But still. Also, that scene is pretty cool when he puts on the ring and you see like their actual faces. I thought that was like really. Like,
that was a really good scene.
Yeah, really fucking weird and creepy. Like, yeah. I don't know
like
if that's
were like people that like previously got. Like
so for those who, I mean, if you've seen the movie, like they were once, kings of men that eventually just like over time, the rings that Sauron tricked them into wearing, like just took away their humanity, and now they're just like wraiths. They're just wraiths for Sauron, and they have no will of their own. They just follow what Sauron's will is. But like, they were men once, so that's like a little vestige of like what their humanity was at one point. I don't know if the one that stabbed him. I can't remember because I think they mentioned the second movie. So one of the Nazgul is actually like above the rest. He's the Witch King of Angmar. Like that's his like title. So I think the one that stabs him, the one you see with the big ass crown and the beard, he might be that one. But I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure yet if he's that guy. But yeah. So yeah, Frodo gets stabbed by a Morgul blade, and you see the blade disappear. And stuff. Okay, so now we get into. I'm gonna have to give a big lore dump here.
All right.
What do you think about the Uruk-hai scene, where they get born?
Oh yeah.
You're the monster guy, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this.
At first, I wasn't sure what was going on because you just see like the mud, and then like they're popping out. I'm like, are they like from the earth or like? Was this some kind of weird man?
I'll explain all of that because the orcs are complicated in Tolkien lore. But finish your thoughts, then I'll give like a big 10-minute exposition dump.
Okay, because I was more like they look good, and then like the little. I'm not sure if they're orcs, but the guys that look like they're all stitched together.
They're all stitched together.
Like on their face, they have all these scars. I'm not sure if they were orcs too, or if they were like something else.
So I guess we can dive into it. So okay. Orcs are complicated because Tolkien changed his mind on the origins of orcs. So, the first origin was that they were a creation of the first Dark Lord, Morgoth or Melkor. Because, in Tolkien lore, a lot of things have multiple names and a lot of nicknames. So, before Sauron was actually a servant of Morgoth. And Morgoth was the first Dark Lord. And first, it was that, he created the orcs. Like, those were his creation. And he made them as a mockery to the elves. Because he hated the god, who created the elves, and he's like, okay, he's made essentially the orcs to like make fun of the elves. But then, because again, Tolkien is very Catholic, he's like, no. The devil should not have the ability to create. Only God can have the ability to create and imbue something with a soul. So Tolkien changed his mind, and it made it so. I think you see it in the movie. They explain it. That's the Peter Jackson films go with this origin, and it's the most widely accepted origin. That Morgoth took elves, tortured them, corrupted them, and then eventually that's what created the orcs. So he has the ability to corrupt. He doesn't have the ability to create. So, and it's like a theme throughout all of like his creations. Like dragons are a corruption of eagles. Trolls are a corruption of you don't see them in this movie, but you'll see them in movie 2 and movie 3. Ents, which are like these giant tree things. So he's essentially making horrible creatures that are in mockery to a nice, beautiful creature that God of the Lord of the Rings created. So, and with it,
okay.
yeah. So those are again, this is a very short form. I'm not going into like 100% detail. I'm just giving you like the Cliff Notes version. And then there's like this argument, this discussion amongst Tolkien fans that can a orc be redeemed? Because like if they are like, because again they're like the Wraiths, they're just imbued with like Sauron's hate and his like thoughts and everything, but like do they have a soul because they once had a soul, so can they be redeemed? And there's some characters, they're not in the movie but in the books, there's a discussion between two orcs that like whenever the war ends they'll just go and like live in a hut somewhere and like away from everything. So like that gives maybe a hint that orcs can be redeemed, but then which makes like Tolkien very uncomfortable with, because he's like he made them mostly just to like be hacked off as like armies of darkness. So yeah, and then we have a lot of subspecies. So in the books, orcs and goblins are the same thing. They're just like different words that like some people call them goblins, some people call them orcs. It's fine. Like, they're just like different societies use different words for the same thing. But in the movies, they're different. There are different species. You see goblins in the Mines of Moria. They're like smaller. They crawl around. They climb up things in the dark. Whereas orcs are kind of like at least like dwarf height, maybe slightly taller, and they like walk around like upright. Whereas like goblins are like much smaller and they kind of squat and like run around on like all fours and stuff. And then you have Urukai. Now, Urukai are essentially so when it came to breeding orcs, again, Tolkien kept on changing his mind. So you've got the tortured elf one origin, you've got the creation of Morgoth origin. Then you've got one where like Tolkien said that like, obviously there were a lot of evil men, like just pure men that worked for the Dark Lords over time. That worked for the Dark Lords, and over time, because they worked for the Dark Lord so much, they essentially became orc-like. They became very beast-like, that they lost their own humanity, and so they became orc, like adjacent. So he's ended up crossbreeding them, which is fucking disgusting. Uh, yeah, and then that's how like the Urukai were created. But in the movie, they don't mention previous Urukai in the movie. It's just like, oh, Saruman was the first one, like who like came up with the idea. So he crossbreeds orcs with I think other men that were like around Isengard, which is like the tower that Saruman's in. So around Isengard, like he crossbred, and then he like use dark magic and like make them come out of mud and slime, which is how Morgoth, if you go with that origin, he made them out of like rock, stone, slime, and their hearts are made of granite and stuff. Like that's how the description was. So I think like Peter Jackson just sort of like took all of the bits and pieces of different origins and like put them together, and then that's how you get Urukai, which are like much taller. They're like man height. They can go in the sun, and like they're much smarter than like the regular like orcs. So yeah, they're like the birthing scenes are just full of goo and like disgusting. And you'll be surprised to hear a lot of women are like, I'd fuck that.
Really? Damn. All right. Wait, like in real life or in universe? Both?
I don't know. I didn't question it that much. I just like moved on with my life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's like what that's what orcs, urukai. There's also other subspecies, but again, I don't want to again. I'm just giving you the Cliff Notes version. Yeah, so the orcs are complicated because Tolkien kept on revising, and I'll send you some videos of like the origin of orcs and urukai and like all of those stuff. So yeah, the orcs are complicated because Tolkien did not sit with one perfect like linear origin. He kept on changing it over time as his like legendarium grew. So yeah, so the orcs are kind of complicated, but yeah, but for in the movies it's kind of simple. Urukai were created by Saruman. That's it. Yeah, and with crossbreeding with like orcs and men. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty interesting lore right there. The corruption one's actually pretty interesting. I actually kind of like that origin. That seems like very interesting with the whole.
Yeah, there's even discussion because you get to the problem where well, if they can be redeemed, then they have a soul. But it's pretty clear that they're kind of soulless in the books and the movies. But so then it becomes this theory that fans have made that what if he tortured them so much that either A, the soul just got out of the body, or B, it stunted the soul so much where it's they just become creature and beast where they man, that's all they can do because that's how much they got tortured and corrupted.
Huh.
Yeah.
Tortured the souls out of them.
Yeah. So that's where we get the urukai scene. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I guess with context that makes it more interesting because before it's just get this ugly thing coming out of the mud. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So then we move on to the scene with the stone statue trolls. Again, you see how they become like that in those poses specifically in the Hobbit movie. I think you already saw that, right, in the Hobbit animated movie. I'm pretty sure.
Right. I mean, I don't remember. I only remember bits and pieces of it. I remember meeting Gandalf, and then I remember Smaug. But of course, I was a kid, so it's wizard and dragon.
All right. Yeah. So then, we meet Arwen, and we have a Nazgul chase scene. Any thoughts on this, or you want to move on to Rivendell?
Well, most of my notes are mostly for Riverdale or
Rivendell.
Rivendell, yeah.
You see cool magic. You see horse water.
Yeah, I mean, see, because that was a cool piece of magic. That's why I was kind of confused. I'm like, oh, so they're capable of doing it. Why were they just pushing each other?
Yeah. So we're in Rivendell, and then we see how Gandalf he comes on an eagle. We're in Rivendell. So what are your thoughts on Rivendell? And let's start with the set piece of it, how Rivendell looks, and because this is something that makes me I could never imagine this when reading the books, but now that I see it, oh my god, it's breathtaking. See, looking at a screenshot right now of Rivendell, oh my god, it is gorgeous.
Yeah, most of my big notes are for a lot of the set pieces of this movie because the beginning obviously was the Shire. I'm just I want to live here, please. Same thing with Rivendell. I'm also because I know the Shire is a real place and everything. Was also Rivendell mostly real, or was it half CG, half real? Because there's some parts of this I'm wait, is this an actual place?
I'm not sure. I think it's half CG, half real. The interiors are probably a set, but I think everything outside is probably CG. The Shire is a place you can actually visit on Earth,
right?
But you can't. I don't think there is a place you can visit for Rivendell and stuff. But
see.
we get reunited with Bilbo. In this, he's much older.
Right.
Yeah. And then we had an awesome scene with I think Sam and Frodo have a really good talk.
Yeah, that's when you get more of Sam just being a bro. It's he didn't leave your side this whole time. He's just been there for you.
Yeah. So that's awesome. And then we get to Hugo Weaving as Elrond.
Yeah, that's what I'm yo, it's Agent Smith.
Yeah. And so yeah, then we talk about the enemy and Saruman. Saruman and Sauron, and then we get the coming of elves, dwarves, men for the Fellowship, and we also get a little bit of a flashback scene on like how what's his name? Forgot. Isildur, that's his name. Took the ring with him, and then Elrond is still pissed about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and then they have that.
Yeah, the conversation of like, well, who do we turn to? The elves are leaving. Which you didn't talk about. We should have talked about it. Yeah, the elves are leaving. Dwarves are like... They don't really talk about dwarves, but that's one of the things about Lord of the Rings is that, like, magic is, like, kind of slowly leaving. And so, like, the elves are leaving, and the dwarves, they don't really mention it, but I think there's something happens to the dwarves. I don't know. I'll have to look into it. And then, like, basically men will inherit the earth. They will inherit Middle-earth. And so there's this big conversation about, like, can we trust men? Can we not trust men? That's one of the themes of Lord of the Rings, is that, like, power corrupting and stuff. Because I remember, like, Tolkien fought in either World War I or World War II, one of the two. I can't remember which one exactly. But yeah, so, like, that was one of the things that, like, really, like, drove this scene. And, like, obviously you can see it. Isildur took the ring and, like, could have ended it there, but did not. Yeah,
he decided to be like, oh, no, I'll keep the ring.
Yeah. Apparently the movie did him dirty, because I was looking into the history of it, and there was this YouTube comment, because I haven't read the books, but apparently in the books, in the movie it's like very simple, like he stares at the ring and you see him give that cocky smile, and then and then he gets like attacked later. In the books it's much more complicated. He wanted the ring to be used for like to help people, and that scene where he's like riding on a horse, and like orcs attack him. He was riding to a place, to a council, to ask about what should be done or about the ring, like what can we do about it, because he was getting like lost in like how to use it. So he was like actually going there to seek advice. But then the movie doesn't really touch on that. It keeps it kind of simple that like, oh, he just got corrupted and it's like basically wearing it as jewelry.
I see.
Yeah. And then we get into Aragorn's history. So now this is another large lore dump. But again, I'm like, this is pretty like, again, I don't know what JRPG you can connect this to, but it's pretty like, hidden king, hidden like chosen one kind of story, kind of like that. Yeah.
That's a good portion of them. It's like, your father's actually this great king, and you could be the heir.
Yeah, Star Wars has that too, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, so we get that backstory, and then they're all arguing about who to save them, and then Frodo steps up.
Oh yeah. Okay. So before we get to that. So Aragorn's history. So Aragorn is Isildur's heir. So this is what happened. Like, Isildur's father founded the kingdoms of basically the north and the south of kingdoms of men, right? But then after Isildur's death, Isildur's heirs claimed the north, but they never claimed the south. And eventually the kings of the south, like their bloodline ended, so it landed into the stewards. They're essentially like, they're not kings, but they just run the the kingdom as like prime minister, you could say, or whatever, and stuff. So and and then the northern kingdoms were subdivided into three like separate kingdoms. So and then over time legends went away, as is the theme in Lord of the Rings. Over time things get forgotten and stuff. So then only some people know about the legend that like Aragorn is like technically the bloodline is still lives, and it's in the Rangers that like Strider was a part of it. Spoiler alert: Aragorn is Strider.
Right.
Yeah. So that is essentially the backstory, that he technically has a right to name himself king, but he hasn't, for two reasons. Number one, he doesn't want it. That's what the movie goes with. In the books is more complicated, is that like he could technically claim to be the king of the north, but the south would maybe reject him. Because what it was that Isildur's father was named High King, because he founded north and south. So he stayed in the north, but he was the king of both, but his sons were governing the south. But over time, the kingdoms kind of separated. So who knows? Maybe in the books it's a bit more complicated. That like, okay, fine, he can maybe claim the north, but he can't claim the south. But yeah, in the movie it's kind of like simplified. Like, oh no, he can claim both. It's just that Aragorn's kind of being worried.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and then we have the meeting of the council, and then we have his love story with Arwen. And then we have the meeting of the council, and like the rings in the middle, and they're having an argument over what needs to be done. Gimli smashes his axe over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I always love that scene. And then you already see Sean Bean's character Boromir being like, "It is a gift." Yeah. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this whole council scene? Because this is one of my favorite scenes in Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was definitely like a really entertaining scene. Seeing all the races together and interact.
Yeah, seeing all the races. Yeah, I think you see Gimli for the first time, and you see Legolas for the first time. Yeah.
Right. So you get everyone, and then I think I was telling Hamza there was a point in that where I did like soy face when they're like, "You are the Fellowship of the Ring," and I'm like, "Oh, they said the title.
They said the thing." Yeah, I love that scene where they're like, "You have my sword, you have my bow, you have my axe."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously, Pippin's like, "Great, where are we going?"
Yeah, because originally the other hobbits were supposed to be there. They just like, "Yeah, I'm coming along, buddy." I'm like, some of you guys, I don't think you're that qualified, but all right.
Oh, they are not qualified.
Oh yeah, there's a scene later where like they start pissing off the others, but
yeah. So yeah, they are now the Fellowship of the Ring. And then we see the scene with Bilbo. This scene terrified me as a kid. And stuff, and then you see him give him Sting, you see him give him the Mithril armor, and then you see the scene where he goes kind of Gollum-y after the ring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you get jump scared by that?
Yeah, that's why as a kid, anything when people start freaking out with the ring, that would have freaked me out as a kid. Just people just being normal for a second, and all of a sudden they get all freaky on you. I'm like, oh no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and then we the journey starts, and then it starts with them hiding in the rocks because those birds are spies of Saruman. So there you go. That's some magic for you. You complaining about no magic? There's magic for you.
I mean, there is, but it's not as flashy as I thought it was going to be. I mean, that little horse wave thing was I think the flashiest it got in the movie so far.
Oh yeah, and then they're in the snowy mountain, and then Saruman makes a avalanche kind of, and then that's when they decide that they have to go through the mines of Moria.
Right.
Yeah, which may be one of the worst decisions Frodo has ever had to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So what are your thoughts on this whole scene with the gate and the password and all of that stuff? Yeah.
Well, see, that was it's funny because given what I know about Lord of the Rings, because a lot of fans take it very seriously and everything like that, but the movie also sometimes is a bit goofy and fun, and when they're trying to get through the gate, Gandalf is just let me try this password. That doesn't work. Well, let me try another one. And I think it was one of the Hobbit guys. I think Pippin was like, "You need help with that?" He's like, "Shut up."
Oh yeah, Gandalf gets very pissed off with Pippin. Yes.
Yeah, one time he's essentially next time you make a mistake, kill yourself. I'm like, I was expecting him to be that mean.
Yeah. And then I think Frodo points out that what's the elfish word for friend? And it's melon, and then the gate opens, and then then we get the set piece of just the beginning of Moria, all the skeletons around, oh god, I love how Moria looks, decrepit, filled with skeletons and dust and darkness, so good.
Yeah, the sets in this movie are really good, and then considering that I don't want to be one of those guys, but most of the movies I've been seeing in theaters these days, I don't really think about sets that much. But watching this movie, I'm like, wow, look at all these sets. They're very memorable.
Yeah, and then we got, I think, if you want to count the Nazgul as your first monster, then you've got like this octopus thing, as your second monster.
Yeah, this whole section, there's good dosage of monsters.
Yeah, and then we see them going through the mines of Moria. Like, okay, so like, any thoughts on Moria before we get to the action scenes?
I mean, for the most part, again, my notes are mostly like cool skeletons.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just gonna stop for a bit. Like they're going through Moria, and then we get a little glimpse of like a close up of Gollum, just a little, and then like Frodo and Gandalf had like a very important and interesting conversation. Like Frodo's like Bilbo should have killed for Gollum, and then Gandalf is like talking about like, can you make that right decision? Because again, remember Tolkien's been to war, so he's seen the worst of humanity, but he also knows that there's good in humanity. So he's talking about like, hey, there are a lot of people who are alive that deserve to die. There are a lot of people who are dead but deserve to live. Can you be like, are you wise enough to make that decision and stuff? And then he mentions like Gollum has a role to play, and then like the important like lesson of like we don't get to decide we don't get to decide what time we live in, but we do get to decide the choices we make. So yeah, like again, it's just like a really nice, touching scene.
Right. Yeah, that was a good moment.
Yeah, and then we get to the big set piece. The one with all the columns and the music swells.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so good. And then we get to one of our first action scenes where Gimli finds his cousin dead in that tomb. Which like, you guys didn't get this news.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, dang, that's one way to find out about that.
Yeah, and then we get the scene that like Shaheen was alluding to earlier, where Pippin knocks over a skeleton with a long ass chain, and Gandalf tells him to like go kill yourself.
Yes, essentially, he was just like, kill yourself.
I think like next time throw yourself down there or something. He doesn't like say go kill yourself.
Yeah, he doesn't say that, but essentially in modern day terms.
Oh god, yeah. And then we get our first action scene. Then we get our third monster. Again, if you count the Nazgul as monsters, you get goblins and you get a troll.
Yeah, we got a troll.
Yeah.
Big CG troll.
Boromir's just like, they have a troll. Oh, no. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this whole action scene? And we get to see Sting go blue. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool, and obviously, like a glowing sword is always cool. But I'm like, that's kind of weird. It's like it glows when this like specific enemy is around you. I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah, so we get it. I think this action scene is very well done. I think like the CGI is a bit dated, but for the most part, like it still like holds up. And then like the hobbits get into action. Sam has a scene where he's like beating people with a frying pan.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like so far, like Sam's the GOAT. But
then we get the scene where he stabs Frodo. One of the many. I'm realizing that like just now, like he gets stabbed a lot throughout the film.
I know, like he has like at least in this movie, he has like 2 major stabs.
Yeah, the first one by the Nazgul, and then the second one by the troll with the spear, but like the Mithril, like stops it.
Right. Yeah. Which I mean, this is probably like where more of the RPG elements that I follow, because I'm like, oh, I'm familiar with Mithril. That's a armor upgrade you get later on, and then
they have it in games. I thought it was like copyrighted or something that they can't use.
No, there's a couple fantasy metals, like Mithril or Halcom. Because I remember of Orhalcom, I'm more used to that for like Dragon Quest, but then I remember I was like rewatching Slayers like the other year, and like, we need this armor set. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it's not copyrighted. It's just a general fantasy term, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, because I think like elf and wizard and all of those are not like specific. Like no one can copyright them. Like any fantasy can use it. But I thought Mithril would be a thing that's like, oh no, only Lord of the Rings can have it or something. But I'm glad to hear that it's not just Lord of the Rings that can have it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more open.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to all that, so you have all those monsters, and of course, eventually you get an even bigger it's like quite
Monster.
the escalation.
Yeah, and also in this you get I think if you're listening to the soundtrack, this soundtrack is called Bridge of Khazad-dûm. It has when you think of it, has what you think of as the main Lord of the Rings theme song, dun, 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 yeah, all that, that's where it comes from in the soundtrack. Because I love the soundtrack of Lord of the Rings. My God, the score is amazing. Yeah, so we get we get a lot of bridge action. There's an interesting video by I think Second Look, because apparently the script for this scene, what do you call, has very little description. It's just characters jump over stairs, but when you actually watch the movie, it's very detailed. There's very specific shot selection. There's an interesting video to watch on how you transfer a script to movie, and then you get the important scene with Gimli. Nobody tosses a dwarf.
Yeah.
Yeah, then
Just
up
jump.
the beer. I love Gimli. Love that. I love the dwarves. In The Hobbit, they have this awesome scene where they make, because they make all the all the jokes and everything, and I love it so much. But that's when that's when we'll get to if we ever get to The Hobbit one day, we'll do that. Yeah. So yeah, they jump over the falling stone staircase, and then we get to the important scene on the bridge and the Balrog. Which is, I think the name of the Balrog, specifically this one, is called Durin's Bane. Which is Durin is the progenitor of the, what do you call, dwarves. So yeah, we get the You Shall Not Pass scene. So, number one, what you think of the Balrog? This is our first, monster now. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, what I liked about this scene, it's a really good escalation of monsters, because, you walk in, you get all the skeletons, then you have this weird octopus, then you see trolls and goblins and all that, and then it's here's the dungeon boss monster.
Wait, could you hold? My cat is meowing like crazy. I think he wants food.
All right.
No, he has food. Where is he? Wally! Wally! I think nobody's at home. That's why he's worried. I have to open my door.
I see.
Yeah. Okay, stop. Sorry about that.
No worries.
You're gonna have to edit this out.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I don't think this will be as bad as previous podcasts where I have to edit out sound interference. This is just just pause the scene and stitch it back.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we're Balrog. There we go. Okay, we're back.
Right. So yeah, it's just good escalation, and then we finally get the dungeon boss character, the Balrog, and the epic music is playing and everything. Again, just my brain keeps on turning back to JRPGs, but that's essentially what the Balrog is at this point of the story.
Yeah. So we get. So what do you think about the Balrog? The fire, the whip, the wings, the horns.
Yeah, when you think of intimidating fantasy monster, that's pretty much what would pop into my head. So yeah, it was pretty good. Again, I mentioned earlier, I don't know why, because I know it's one of those scenes that you see it parodied so much or referenced or meme.
Yeah.
I just thought it was I thought it was more of a climactic thing for this movie, but we still have a lot. I mean, I know we're watching the extended edition, but we still have quite a bit of movie left. So I'm oh, okay.
Yeah, even for me, I thought we're this is the end. I remember this as the climax of the movie, but no, there is more stuff later on. But yeah, that's just how Lord of the Rings is. It's a big long journey. So yeah, so apparently Peter Jackson was being a bit taking a bit of artistic license with the Balrog, because in the books I think it's just bigger than a man. It's 10, 12 feet tall. It's big, but it's not in the movie it's oh my god, it's a fucking building.
It's a boss character.
Yeah, so in the books apparently it's slightly just bigger than a man, but yeah, he still has the wings, the whip, the sword, and stuff, and then horns breathing of fire. There is some debate whether the wings were real or was it metaphorical. But most people take it as literal. So yeah, like we have that, and then we have the flaming whip. Right now, we get to the big speech, the "You shall not pass" speech. So he says a lot of stuff, and this speech it's heavy. There's a lot of lore into it. So he starts with, "I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Arnor." And then he go back to the shadow. You shall not pass. Wait, hold on. Hold on. Yeah, I'm a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Arno. The dark fire will not avail you, flame of Udun. That's like the. And then he screams, "You shall not pass." Right. So there's a lot in that. So let's start. I am a servant of the secret fire. So when the universe was created by God in Middle Earth, uh, he gave what do you call basically the angels that God created. He gave them this thing called the secret fire, or another name would be the flame imperishable. It's essentially the source of all life in Middle Earth. So when he says, "I am a servant of the secret fire," that is what he's referring to, the flame imperishable. Because like that is where the source of all life comes from. That's how the world was created. And later on, even when the dwarves were created, when the dwarves were first created, they didn't have a soul. Like the angel that created them, the creator of the dwarves specifically, were not created by God of the Lord of the Rings universe. It was made by an angel of God. So they were just like essentially automatons. They were just action figures that they only did things when their like creator was near or like controlling them. But then the God gave mercy and then like imbued the dwarves with the flame imperishable, therefore giving them souls, therefore giving them life. And then and then that's how the dwarves came into being. So when he says, "I am a servant of the secret fire," that's what, because here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. Both Gandalf and the Balrog were there at the creation of the universe.
Okay, see, this is a question I've been holding on to.
Okay.
Are like the wizards not humans, or they're like a different race, or does you becoming a wizard just allow you to have longevity?
So it's not, so whatever your idea of wizards are from like Witch Hat Atelier, Harry Potter, throw them out the window.
Okay.
Okay, so there are different types of beings in what do you call Lord of the Rings. So Gandalf and the Balrog were a race of, not a race of beings, spirits, angelic beings. They're like above anything that's like on Earth. They were the Maiar, right? So they were essentially angels that were there at the dawn of the universe. They took part in this music. That's how it's described in the book. This music that created the universe, and that's where the secret fire comes from. So both the Balrog and Gandalf were there, but Gandalf ended up becoming a wizard and walking, Middle Earth and trying to do good. The Balrog was again a Maiar, but was corrupted by Morgoth and became basically this, whatever you see in front of you, this demon monster because of Morgoth's corruption. So when he says, "I am a servant of the secret fire" to the Balrog doesn't respond, but he knows exactly what he's talking about because they were both there.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like a really cool idea. Like, oh my god, both of you were there at the origin of the universe. But yeah, Gandalf, but is still serving the secret fire, whereas the Balrog is like a servant of Morgoth. Then he goes, "Wielder of the flame of Arnor." So Arnor is an Elvish word for sun. So obviously, there's it's essentially, just to keep it brief, it basically means light. Essentially, that's what he's saying. Wielder of the flame of honor, like he's the wielder of light and light beating darkness, because that's what honor is. Now, it's a bit more complicated of that because the sun was a specific thing before in Tolkien lore. It was part of this these two trees that were the two lights of the universe that eventually got destroyed by Morgoth. But he's basically "Hey, I am the wielder of the flame of honor. I am the wielder of light." So then we go to hold on. What's next? Oh yeah, the dark fire will not avail you. So he has basically the fire of light, the fire of the sun, which is like, good fire, whereas, he's literally made of shadow and flame. That's what, remember Saruman was like a being of shadow and flame. So he's like, made of dark fire. And then he called him the flame of Udun. So Udun is an Elvish word for Utumno, which was Morgoth's castle that he built, his stronghold in the north of Middle-earth, where he created orcs, he created dragons, he created, Balrogs, like basically all of the corruption shit and the dark art shit. That was in Utumno. And another word for Utumno is Udun, and Udun means in English like hell, underworld, dark pit, like that. So that's what when he says flame of Udun, he's referring to the Balrog as like, oh, you're a creature of Utumno, you're from the underworld. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So again, it's like a heavy scene. There's a lot in this. There's a lot of history Gandalf is throwing at the Balrog, and like I wish the Balrog responded to some of it, but like no, it's just monster fight.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I wasn't expecting that. I mean, with the stuff Gandalf was saying, I thought that was just like chanting for like.
Oh yeah, whatever. Like the white power he's like emanating in during the fight. Yeah.
Yeah, like I thought he was about to throw up some like epic magic blast, or that's like his Green Lantern oath. Like I don't know what he was doing.
Even the video I was watching, the guy who was because like he read the books, but he started off with the movie, so he always assumed that Flame of Udun, for example, was like the end of a chant. But then he's like, oh no, Flame of Udun is him like addressing the Balrog directly. Like he's like talking to the Balrog like, you are a Flame of Udun. Like I was like, oh. So then yeah, like so again, it's like a lot of heavy shit in this speech, which like, oh my god. I will send you the videos later that I saw like that explains all this stuff. There's 2 channels. One is the Broken Sword, the other is the Nerd of the Rings. That like were like my like main sources for this. But like yeah. Again, like heavy shit, and then like, yep, the what do you call Balrog falls, and you get the you shall not pass scream, and yeah, and then the whip catches him, and he falls on with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Oh man, it took down Gandalf.
Yeah, in the books, I think it happens all at once. There is no like, oh, he turns around because he's safe. I think it happens like all at once. Like as he's falling, his whip entangles him, but in the movie it's like a bit more oh, he's about to walk away because everything's okay, but then no, he falls.
Yeah, the whip comes out. Then
the whip comes out and it catches him. Yeah. So yeah, this is the first ever big death. How'd it feel, man?
Well, like I was surprised. I'm like, I thought Gandalf was like more of a larger player.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I thought like he was like, just going to be there through the whole movie. So I was expecting him to just go away. I thought he was like throughout the whole trilogy. He just was there.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna spoil anything, but like, yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, so that was just definitely something I didn't expect. My notes are literally like, "Oh shit, Gandalf down."
Gandalf, literally down.
Yeah, he went down. He just died.
I'll just say
your magic ass could blow you back, like.
Yeah, like because like after like Frieren, because like, Frieren she can fly, right? If I can remember properly.
See, in Frieren, it's like flying is like a demon magic, and like it's more of a recent thing.
Yeah, right.
Like it goes more in depth with that. So like I don't know. I mean, these are 2 different universes, so maybe his old ass doesn't know about flying magic. But I'm like, I don't know. There's not like a puff of wind you could have used to like blow yourself back. I don't...
All I'll say is that in the second movie, in the first, literally from scene 1, it shows what happens when he falls down. So you'll see.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Because I have a feeling, because I'm like, there's no way. I feel like Gandalf, like I see him too much in pop culture for him to just be like, well, that's it, kids, he's done. I'm like, what? Gandalf kind of sucks then.
Really? Even after Ian McKellen?
If he got punked right then and there, if he truly is done, I'm like, what? He smoked weed, started a journey, got pushed around by another old guy. Like
Yeah.
Gandalf is just a dude.
He's a Maya. Have some respect. Yeah. Yeah. So then we get obviously a sad music, horrible scene of like all of them like just holding each other and crying because like Gandalf is dead, but they have to move on because the enemy does not run. And then we get into I forgot what the name of this place is, but it's essentially the Wood Elves, like Galadriel's place. And we see Galadriel. She's one of the most high elves and one of the most powerful elves, and she has a ring of power herself. The realm of Lord Celeborn and of Galadriel. Yeah, that's what it's like. The name. It has a specific name. I forgot the name though. Yeah.
It just all these names. I was telling Hamza before we started. I'm like, I only remember a few of these names. Some of these guys, I'm just kind of like,
it's hard.
They all can't be Sam.
They all can't be Sam. Yeah. So what do you thought? This was like a more of a quiet down. Like we just went through hell. Like let's just, But like Galadriel is like really fucking scary in this. Like she's like she can read minds. She's like scaring Frodo. I don't know why she was like really picking on Frodo in this. I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, why were you like so like on Frodo's ass? I think he's the ring bearer, so like maybe that. I don't know.
Yeah, I figured it was just because of the ring and all that, but because it was around this point where I think I took a pause from the movie just because of like all that thing that happened in the cave. Essentially, I'm like, all right, I guess that's a good point to like pause for a bit, come back to the next day.
Yeah. Then we see the scene of what do you call Sam trying to give a speech.
No, yeah.
Oh, that was sad. I forgot. This scene I completely forgot that like this existed. I'm like, oh God, Sam, don't try.
Oh yeah.
Just nobody's in the mood.
I feel like there's a couple moments like that with Sam where he's like, all right, I'm going to do like a speech, and everyone's like, no, Sam, it's not the time. Just leave me alone. I'm like, let the man talk.
Yeah. And then we have a scene with Boromir and Aragorn, and they talk about Gondor and like the realm of men and the Minas Tirith, the White City. You see Minas Tirith when Gandalf goes to that place to like find the scrolls to learn about the ring. That's Minas Tirith.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the white tree you see, that's like that tree is there in Minas Tirith and stuff. So yeah, and then we see. This is pretty fantasy. Frodo has a vision of what could happen if things turn bad. Essentially, orcs everywhere and like enslaving people and stuff. And then we see the lidless eye of Sauron. And then this is again the other scary scene where he offers the ring to Galadriel, and she goes, "I don't know what happens." It just goes batshit insane.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That one was just like, damn man, what the fuck?
Yeah, because like, even Gandalf had a little bit of it, but he didn't go this ham. Yeah, she goes
like everyone becomes a freak around this ring. I'm like, damn man, if I really did watch this as a kid, I would have been scared of rings. I'm like, I don't know about this.
It's the one ring. It's the most powerful ring. It's in the darkness. And there's a poem. Like I don't know if they did Gandalf. No, Gandalf said it. He said it like in the darkness, one ring to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them. Like it's a full like saying. It's a song. Yeah. So then, Frodo makes the decision here to leave the Fellowship.
Right.
Yeah. That's when and then we see. Yeah. So you're saying? Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So because I think like Sam was trying to give him like, hey man, I'll be with you, and the Frodo's like, no, I just need to go. Like, bye, Sam. And I'm like,
that happens a bit later. Like this is okay. We haven't discussed that yet. Like it's still like he's still with Galadriel and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah. Right. We see the Uruk-hai a bit cleaner, still wet, very wet. Yeah, but then they're putting the white mark of Sauron, and they're getting all what do you call fashioned with their swords and armor and stuff. The Urukai you see, the main one, right? The one without the helmet that gets all the talking and stuff. That was a Peter Jackson original. It's not in the books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not in the books. But yeah, Saruman gives a speech, and then tell them to bring the hobbits back, and then we get the scene of the gifts. What'd you think of the gifts?
That I enjoyed. I don't know, because in a lot of fantasy stories, there's always that I'm guessing this is the progenitor of scenes like that, because in a lot of fantasy stories, you always get that scene where it's oh, brave heroes, I present you with these divine gifts, and it's you get this and you get that, but some of them I'm pretty sure will come into play a little bit more later on, but it's here's some rope. I'm all right.
Oh god, yeah, he didn't get shiny daggers.
Yeah, I know. And then Pippin didn't really get anything.
No. Pippin and Merry got daggers, and then that's when Sam got jealous, and he's like, "You couldn't give me the daggers."
Oh, yeah,
well, I got rope. But before that, they also got the bread, the elvish bread, lambas.
They ate four.
Four of them, yeah. For the bread, if you take one bite, your stomach is full, but he ate four. I'm like, his stomach should I don't know, it should be either shitting bricks or just dead. I don't know.
I mean, he I remember he did rub his stomach, oh, I'm pretty full, but it almost looks sarcastic.
Yeah, he rubbed his stomach and burped, and that's it. I'm like, you should be dead.
I know, those hobbits, man, they're built different.
Oh yeah, right. They do have second breakfast. Yeah, I think if a man ate it, then I don't know what would happen.
Because they're oh, what about second breakfast and this and afternoon tea? It's they just eat every hour practically.
Yeah.
They know how to live, man. I'm telling you, man. I wish I was a hobbit.
Yeah. So Legolas gets a bow. Sam gets some rope, and then
Dwarf gets some hair.
Yeah, Dwarf gets. He asks for one.
a single.
A single hair, but she. I love Gimli so much.
What a simp.
Don't say that. Oh, yeah. God. Yeah, and then he doesn't give. She doesn't give Aragorn anything because she has that necklace.
Right. Okay. Because I remember someone did get something. Yeah, it was them.
Yeah. Frodo gets that light thing that when all that thing that can make light when all other lights go out. Yeah. And then they go down the boats, and then we see the Urukai. I mean, this is where we're getting pretty close to the end. Again, we get another scene with Gollum. Man, this guy just not let up. He's literally floating in the water.
Just the certified freak.
Yeah. And then I think this is the scene where Sam is getting the idea that Frodo's gonna leave. This is where it starts. Yeah. And then Boromir and Aragorn have a argument, and then Aragorn's like, "I'm never gonna give you the ring, never." Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because then he also has a freak out moment with the ring.
Yeah, and then we have that scene with the two statues.
Yeah. See, because I remember this is where I'm maybe I did see this movie as a kid, because I remember as a kid I remember tall statues or tall towers. Or something like that. So I'm like,
there's a lot of that in Lord of the Rings. It couldn't necessarily be this. There's a lot of scenes like that.
Right. I'll see, because I know one of them is called the Two Towers. So I'm maybe
that's the second one. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's the one. I'll have to wait and see. But that's the scene where I'm wait, maybe I did see this movie, but everything else did not ring a bell. So I'm I don't know.
Yeah, that scene was awesome. I don't know what the story is behind the two statues. I'll have to look that up later, maybe in my own time. But it's because it's the kind of cool theme. It's not really that important, so I didn't really look into it.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know. We got Lord Dubs for everything else. I'm these or from.
I'm pretty sure there's some story.
Yeah. But I mean, everything has a history in this.
Yeah. Everything has a history. Yeah. And then then we get Gimli just like stating the things that like Frodo will eventually have to go through. He goes through all that, like the marshland, the rocks, everything, and stuff to like get to Mordor. And then we get the scene where Boromir tries to take the ring from Frodo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see that coming or no?
I had a feeling just because the way he was before, and then I don't know, man. That ring brings out everyone's inner freak.
Inner freak.
Everyone wants some of that precious.
They're sticking up their gap for the ring.
Lord of the Riz.
Oh god! Oh, I hate myself for making that joke.
I'm surprised I'm not the one that said it. You did.
Oh god! But yeah, like Boromir like regrets it, but then again, anytime he puts out the ring, he goes into Gates' crazy visions because like Sauron can see him. He's like, you see. And then we get a scene. See, Aragorn's cool. He didn't get tempted by the ring. No crazy reaction. He thought about it though. Apparently.
Yeah, he's Normal.
Yeah, and then we get the scene. We get our like final action scene with the Uruk-hai and stuff. And then like Aragorn has that slow motion walk with the sword in front of his face.
Oh yeah.
What do you think of the makeup on the Uruk-hai? Like, it's really disappointing because in The Hobbit, all the orcs are CGI.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I just remember that. Like, that was really disappointing to see that they went with CGI instead of makeup for the Hobbit movies. But like in this one, it's all like real people with like actual makeup. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they look really cool, and then the one action scene I do remember because like I was kind of shocked. Like towards the end, like one of the guys get like a shield thrown at their neck. And like, I'm like, holy shit, did he just decapitate him? But like, no, he was fine. But I was like, oh my god, like I thought he just chopped his head off with the shield.
Yeah, so like that's Aragorn. He gets Legolas is like just tunneling people with arrows, and then like I think that's when he fights. I forgot the name of the what do you call Uruk-hai that he fights? He has a specific name because it's in the credits. But like that's the one that Peter Jackson like made for the movie. And then also but before that we get the scene where Boromir dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of Sean Bean's many deaths throughout his like cinematic history. Yeah, what'd you think of that?
Well, I mean, maybe not unfortunately, since I wasn't really sure if it was Sean Bean. So I'm like, I mean, I don't know why. I did have a feeling somehow he was going to die. He was just, to me, he was giving off that energy.
Oh, you saw the flag?
Yeah, either he was going to die or he was just going to like really betray everyone.
Right. Yeah.
Which is what I thought was happening when he was like with Frodo a bit earlier. Like he was just going to overpower him and like run off with it.
Yeah. I forgot because I just remember him dying, but I'm like, oh yeah, but he kind of did redeem himself in this. Yeah. Because like it's not all bad. It's just like the ring kind of just like messes you up. Yeah. Keeps fighting though. It takes 3 hours to take him down. Yeah. And then then this is when we get the scene with I'm watching it right now. Aragorn jumps in, and then they have like a little bit of a tussle with the sword, and then like he onto the tree. Yeah. And then like then he runs at the tree, tries to decapitate him, but then like Aragorn slips underneath the shield. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. See, that's why I was shocked because I mean, I guess like the shield wasn't like pointing all the way down.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of like an edge.
Yeah, there's like a dent. Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm like, oh my god, that's what, like okay. So there's a scene where like Aragorn stabs him with a knife, and then he licks the blood on the knife and then throws it, and then Aragorn slashes it with his sword. Apparently, that was real.
Oh,
the actor who was playing the Uruk-hai threw the knife, and then Aragorn legit swatted it with his sword. And they kept that for the movie. Yeah.
The beauty of practicalness, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Then he cuts off his arm, and then stabs him, and then later on just decapitates his head. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, and it's it's black blood. It's black blood, so it's PG-13. It's safe. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I honestly feel like this was to me, even though I really liked all the things that was going on in the cave, because it had more monsters and everything, but I don't know why that particular action scene stuck with me more. Maybe it was because of the whole shield thing, where I was like, oh shit. And then we also got another death in the group. Damn, the first movie we're this fellowship's getting whittled down.
Yeah, the fellowship really doesn't. It doesn't have the best success rate. They do succeed. Spoilers for the movie, the ring does get to Mordor, but this fellowship has a rough go of it. And then we get the big bro scene. This. One of the many bro scenes between Sam and Frodo. Shaheen, you talk about Jigen and Lupin, right? I think Sam and Frodo can give them a run for their money.
I don't know, unless Sam or Frodo's hey man, I got your heart, man. I'm gonna steal your heart.
They have something similar in the third movie. You'll see when you get there.
I'll be your pipe weed man.
Again, something similar. You'll see. But then, Frodo is taking off. Sam is I am going to get to you because that's the promise I made, and literally drowns. And then we have Frodo.
He just drowns. I'm no.
My God. And then he's I made a promise to Gandalf that I won't leave you, and I don't plan to. And they hug. Just the bros. That's the thing. It's the brotherhood of Lord of the Rings is awesome in it. Even though the Fellowship falls apart, but the three Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, and then Frodo and Sam. They're how tight they are together as a group and stuff. And then it's just gonna be Sam and Frodo, and then Gimli, Aragorn, and Legolas, that's the name, yeah.
Right.
Are gonna go after Merry and Pippin and get them back. And then that's where we end off with what do you call the Fellowship of the Ring. And then we have 20 minutes of credits. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm oh man, this is quite a bit of
I said, it was 2 years of constant filming, then they released each movie one after the other annually. So yeah. So there was a lot of work that went to it. There's a whole behind the scenes documentaries on how this movie was made, which I didn't watch, but I do really want to watch one day on how much work was put into it. But so that's Fellowship of the Ring. You saw the first ever Lord of the Rings movie. How does it feel?
It's good to accomplish that. I got my first dose of one of the most iconic fantasy stories of all time. So since I've been in my fantasy mood, that's good to get that finally out of the way. But
now you understand the memes and the references.
Yeah, again, I'm still surprised. All these memes were just from this one movie. I'm damn. Okay, what do the other movies have?
There's one particular one. You've seen it on Comic Pop. I think you'll understand it after you see it. That's the one big one. The second one, I don't think there's any in the third. But you'll see it when you see the second movie. So what are your thoughts, positive and negatives, of Fellowship of the Ring? Yeah.
I mean, positives. It's a really well crafted movie. It just felt good to see. Of course, there's CG, which for something like this, of course, there has to be a little bit of it. But
yeah, there has to be.
The sets were really good. The costumes were really good. I mean, we didn't really talk about it, but even the whole when Gandalf comes, because he's a tall guy and he's walking into the Hobbit village and everything, but all the hobbits are small. The house and because I forgot the way I've heard it is some kind of like perspective filmmaking to
Yeah,
like capture that.
Yeah, it was perspective. Like they essentially made sure that Gandalf was positioned in a way where he, like, by perspective alone, looked bigger than like the other actors. Then there are other scenes where they just used like, dwarf actors to make that when you didn't have to see Frodo's face or Bilbo's face or any of the hobbits like face. That's when they just used like stunt dwarf actors. But like but like for other scenes where you have to see their face and they're talking, that's when they use, like when he's, for example, sitting on the table talking to Bilbo. That's another scene where they use like perspective to like make Gandalf look huge and make Bilbo look small or Frodo look small. That was like interesting filming techniques they had to use back then. Yeah,
it's just really cool because nowadays it's like CG'd away or fixed in post and everything. So just knowing that like that had to be thought of and like they had to create like kind of like troubleshoot it. That's like always the cool thing about practical effects. It's kind of like a magic trick. It's like, how
it's
did
like
they
a
do
magic
that?
trick. Yeah.
So there's that. I love all of that. The lore, of course, hearing you talk about it, there's a lot of the lore that kind of just went over my head.
Oh, trust me, there's like channels dedicated to explaining the lore. Like there's literally like, so you have the 3 books, right? Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. Then you have The Hobbit, which is like the prequel story. Then you have the Silmarillion, which is basically the Bible for Lord of the Rings.
I've never even heard of that one.
Yeah, and then there's other like I think other books, and there's like literally a 10-volume series called literally The History of Lord of the Rings. History of Middle Earth, my bad, not History of Lord of the Rings. History of Middle Earth. I think it's like a 10-volume series where it's just God. And then
and
the books
themselves. Tolkien?
This is Tolkien and his son, because at some point Tolkien died, so his son had to take over, Christopher Tolkien.
I see.
And like look at his dad's notes and then like release them and stuff. So like so the history of like Morgoth and all of that stuff. Like that comes from like the Silmarillion and like the history of Middle Earth and stuff. So like there's a lot of lore like packed into it, and then like obviously Tolkien literally created languages, like the Elvish language and all of that. Like, so like, there's a lot, like there are people out there like that are like fluent in it and stuff. So it is.
That's always crazy. Like when people create these fantasy languages, and then someone out there is just like, I've learned this language. I know this language. I speak it fluently. I'm like,
when are you going to use it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess with fellow nerds, like I know with like the Avatar movies, like the giant blue people movies, like, there's people that just learn that like the Na'vi language. Like, how often does that come up in your?
I know they're like Star Trek friends that speak in like Klingon to each other.
Yeah, but, like, I don't know. And then like, the whole concept of just creating a language, I'm like, that just sounds not fun.
Got to think of letters, grammar. Jeez. Yeah, and like how it's gonna like sound. But like,
and also, there's like so many words out there in the world. It's like
true. Like that's like a level of nerddom I'll never reach, where it's like, oh, I know this fake language. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, that's almost like you're too far gone at that point. You're too nerdy.
So if you're a hardcore Lord of the Rings fan, like and you're like trying to learn Elvish, like you go fuck yourself is what you.
Go touch some grass.
Go touch some grass. Yeah. Learn like French or Spanish or something. Learn a real language.
Yeah. Fucking learning Elfish, man. That's not gonna help you in life. What are you gonna go to the North Pole and talk to Santa's elves? Like, what the fuck?
All right. So, what were your negatives? Like,
my only real negatives, because I mean, I didn't. At first, I thought the length was going to be a problem. The length actually wasn't, because I don't really know what I would have cut out from this movie, which is why I'm like, I'm actually kind of interested to see the theatrical cut, considering all that. So the length wasn't really my problem. My problem was mostly like, and I'm pretty sure the future movies fix that. Like, again, I was just expecting the action to be a bit better, magic as a whole to be cooler. And that's probably because I'm just spoiled by JRPGs, where like, the hero has like, the Giga Strash, and there's fireballs, and there's Puff, and you turn into a dragon, and all that. Whereas this, like, I mean, I don't know. Gandalf, I felt like his fireworks were cooler than his actual magic.
Or the dragon firework? That like
Yeah, I'm like, why could he just summon a dragon like that? It was like, he just had a firework.
Yeah, so magic-wise, I think you're for the most part gonna be disappointed. There's not a lot of magic in Lord of the Rings, but in terms of battles and action and like, you know, medieval stuff, like, oh, you're gonna get like a lot. And yeah. So like that's what you'll have to look like forward to, but like yeah, but like if magic-wise, not that much to be honest, which is kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe when you're like reading the books, that like there's more stuff in it because like obviously the movies cut out a lot.
Right.
Like for example, there's a character named Tom Bombadil that's like in the books, but
okay.
Is this another black carbon guy?
Okay, no. I mean, no, I don't think so because it's not like you know, you said his name was like Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, Tom Bombadil. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not like he's going around and he has an alternate name where it's like I'm
Bombo Dylan.
Yeah, Bombo Dylan. I mean, that's just stupid.
Yeah. So yeah, like so there's that like that. There's a character like that in the books that's like not in the movies at all. So like yeah, like I mean, literally the books of Lord of the Rings, they have like appendices that like give the history of everything. So like yeah, like it's chock full of stuff, and like I can't wait to like see you like have a completed reaction to like movie 2 and movie 3, especially since you're watching the extended editions as well, so you can have a lot of more stuff.
Yeah, because I think one of them is actually like 4 hours long. I'm like, dang.
I think that's what the last one. The last one is 4 hours long. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Damn, that's like half a work shift.
Yeah, I mean you can divide it like 2 hours because like that's when I needed to watch Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. I think that's also like 4 hours long, and the website I was watching it divided into two like 1 hour 15-minute parts. So I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. Like I can just like watch one part one day and the other part the next day. Yes.
Yeah, because like I originally tried watching it all at once, but I watched it at night. I guess I didn't time it properly. I'm like, it's getting a bit late, and I still have like almost an hour left. But turns out it wasn't as long because of those credits. But for the most part, like I'm pretty positive experience. Again, like my negative is not even that negative. It's more on me. It's not necessarily the movie.
Yeah, I was worried about like because like you have a problem with length. So I was like, oh my god, he can't handle like a 1 hour TV show episode. How he's going to handle like a 3+ hour movie?
Listen, you act like when I go to the theater, I'm like, this sucks. Why wasn't this 15 minutes?
But like even with movies, like people are complaining nowadays, like, oh my god, it's 3 hours. Like literally, there's like a cowboy movie out right now that's like 3 hours each part, with Kevin Costner in it, and it's like people are complaining about that. And like people are complaining about that new Scorsese movie.
Oh wait, no, new one. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, the new one. What is it? Something of the Flowers.
Flowers of the Killer Moon.
Yeah, whatever.
Of the Flower Moon.
Killers of the Flower Moon. That one. That's 3 hours, and like that was like way too long. So I'm like,
I felt like his last movie was also 3 hours, like The Irishman or something.
Yeah, true. That was also 3 hours. So like, I was like worried that like because like even with movies when it hits like over 2.5.
Some of those movies like I could understand being 3 hours long. Mm-hmm. It's just like, but it feels like every movie has to be 3 hours long. At this point. That's what. When a Marvel movie's like 3 hours long, I'm like, come on.
Unless it's like Avengers or like Endgame or something like that.
When it's like Endgame, okay, this is like the completion of a whole saga. But when it's like, here's my origin story for 3 hours, I'm like, what are we doing here?
So like that's what I was worried about. That like it might be too much. Because to be honest, like that's a legit complaint people have with Lord of the Rings. It's like I can't. Like it's 2-3 hours. There's too much talking.
I mean, I feel like you know, it definitely detracts from it being like a super rewatchable movie for me in the future. Like,
true, yeah.
You know, it's not like
I know people that like rewatch it like once a year, like the trilogy,
right?
But like they make an event out of it because the movies are so good, and they make it like a communal thing. Yeah,
and that's fine. Like I wouldn't personally fault someone for it.
And then you've got some crazy people that go like Hobbit and Lord of the Rings together. And I'm like, oh my god, no. I can't do that. Yeah, no. But like, yeah, so like that's like that was like something that was worrying me that like you might be like, oh my god, too much talking, or like oh it's too long and stuff. But like, yeah, but you've gone on record, I think. Have you like a lot of people say like Kuga is slow, but you're like, no, it's not. It's like you just
oh yeah, Kamen Rider Kuga. Yeah. See, like I'm fine with talking. It's not like I need someone to like quip or do a sick flip every 2 seconds or like I die. I just have to be interested in characters or the setting, and lo and behold, the Shire want to live there, and then like I find all the characters really interesting. Gandalf is really interesting. Bilbo's pretty interesting. So I was already pretty invested. Also funny because I keep on mentioning the Shire and everything. In the latest Nintendo Direct, there's like an Animal Crossing style game, but you're just a hobbit living in the Shire.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. Wow.
And at first I'm like, that seems weird. But then after watching this movie, I'm like,
No, you're gonna buy that game, so you're wishlisting it now.
I'm like, that doesn't seem so bad after all.
Oh god. So yeah, for me, I mean, again, I'm a little bit biased. The CGI, some of it is dated. Like I said, like I do agree with Shaheen. The magic, at least in the movies, isn't really up to par with what I've seen from other fantasy shows. Like I think like Tolkien was like trying to keep things a bit more grounded. I don't think he wanted too much, maybe because again, it's like it's one of the earliest fantasy stories, so it's trying to like
I guess like he didn't really envision it back then because like in the movie, essentially the other wizard, what was his name?
Saruman.
Saruman.
Yeah,
like, there's like Saruman and Sauron. I'm like, those names.
Yeah,
are way too
it
similar.
gets confusing. I know. Yeah.
So like Saruman, I think eventually he's just spinning Gandalf on the ground, and then he just levitates him. I'm like, okay, that's a little whack. Like, like okay, throwing each other and pushing each other against the walls. I'm like, okay, I can handle that. But it was like, just spinning him like a little fidget spinner. I'm like, okay, that's a little goofy.
Yeah, and then like again, like the what do you call? I mean, he does look like cool and powerful when he's fighting the Balrog, though. Like that's when I'm like, oh, this is like a fucking wizard. This is a wizard.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Like again, I don't know why in my head I'm like, man, I thought he's like shooting lightning from his fingertips or something.
That's more of a. I mean, Star Wars. That's an evil guy move, so I would like associate that with evil.
I
like
guess.
Yeah. So the magic is kind of like eh. Like even with I have to admit, like I know this is like a nitpicky stuff, but like even the Nazgul, like they're like really close, but then they're like literally like when they're like literally on top of Frodo with that tree trunk, and stuff like I think like Sam or something like throws and the Nazgul just like goes towards it. I'm like, what? Are you dumb?
Yeah, see, I was going to mention that earlier. Just, the conversation didn't really.
Get there. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, they look really intimidating, and the soundtrack around them is really intimidating. But like, I remember when they were just like, okay, let's cross the river, and then like, all right, time to back up and leave. Unless there's some lore reason where they're like vampires and like I can't cross, water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's something like I think I'm pretty sure the book has like an explanation or it's like described differently. But that was the best Peter Jackson could do. Again, we're not like Lord of the Rings experts, so like hey, if we're ignorant about some stuff,
maybe there's a lore reason where like they can't interact with water, but it's just weird. It's like they're so threatening. It's like, oh, you're crossing the water. Oh no, what shall I do? It's not like my horse.
They were gonna cross it, so she had to like do the water horse magic thing. Like,
right.
Yeah.
No, but like there's a scene like way earlier where like I think on the way to the
oh right but like I think there was like a deep river, right? Like they can't fly.
I think horses could swim.
I don't think that much, especially if they're having like a thing.
I mean, it's an evil fucking horse. Come on. At the very much, they seem pretty bloodthirsty. I don't know if it's like if I'm some bloodthirsty hellspawn. I don't know. I would swim across the river to stab a guy in the throat. I don't know.
I mean, they got across eventually, and then like they got to the wrong building, and like
and then like Strider, Aragon, like, I don't know, I felt like he fought them. I'm like, he kind of got punked pretty easily. I thought they were going to put up a little bit more of a fight. I don't know.
Yeah. So the Nazgul are a bit like, I was like, just a bit more. Like, I wish they were just a bit more villainous and stuff. But overall, man, this is like one of the great, like, this trilogy is one of the. Actually, no, I think it's probably the greatest trilogy ever made. To be honest, like, I don't think
is this a trilogy where every movie like is better than the previous, or is there like a definitive favorite among the three where it's like, oh no, the first is the best?
It's subjective. It depends. I know some people that have that feeling that, like, oh, it gets better each time because the stakes get higher and higher, and stuff, and, like, more fucked up shit happens. But some people are like, well, no, like, because they like the first one a lot, or they love the third one because the third one has the big, like, fine, like, climatic battle. Right. So it's like, it's really up to you. Some people like the middle one because the final battle in the middle one is. So you could argue that it's better than the final battle of the last movie, the Battle of Helm's Deep. When you watch it, you can make your own decision on that. But, like, yeah, but just as a cohesive whole, like, none of the movies are bad. They're all bangers, and they're all, like, these epic lengths, and they're, like, just tell this, like, huge grand story in this world and how much work was put into it. Like, this is like an amazing human achievement. Like, these movies are. But, like, yeah, like, I mean, we can have, like, a nice, I think, like, look back when we get to, like, if we get to the third movie, and, like, you guys like, these sort of, like, normie corner, like, we just, again, it's mostly going to be Hollywood movies or movies that, like, are, like, famous, but, like, not all of them, obviously, like, the ones we've seen, like, I think me and Shane have both seen Star Wars. We're not going to do Star Wars, but, like, yeah,
Lord of the Rings was something. I've seen Star Wars,
yeah, but, like, Lord of the Rings, he hasn't seen, which I'm like, oh my god, how have you not seen Lord of the Rings? You gotta see it. Yeah. Maybe, like, I don't know, like a Nolan movie or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I haven't seen, like, Prestige and like, I think the only Nolan movies I've seen are, like, obviously the Batman movies and then Interstellar.
Yeah, you haven't seen Memento. Memento's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, I haven't seen, like, Saving Private Ryan. I haven't seen the Godfather movies.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
I don't know if we can do, like, because, like, Lord of the Rings is a lot, so we can dedicate one episode to it. For others, I think we can do, like, maybe 2 in 1. Like, we can do, like, I don't know, Saving Private Ryan and Memento, like, together, and stuff. So, like, I don't know, maybe, like,
from my understanding, both of those are pretty, like, heavy movies.
I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a minute, like, but, like, yeah, like, with Lord of the Rings, I was very comfortable. Like, oh, we'll easily fill, like, an episode. But, like, other movies, I don't know. Maybe because we're not movie reviewers.
Exactly.
We can't give, like,
and, like, at least Lord of the Rings kind of, like, fits in with, like, the social media engagement because there is, like, a Lord of the Rings anime movie coming out.
Yeah, there's an anime movie coming out, so it's, like, kind of connected.
I don't think we're getting, like, a Godfather anime anytime soon.
Yeah, Fellowship of the Ring doesn't touch on what the movie's touching on. The second movie definitely does, because it's about Rohan and, like, the kingdom of Rohan. So, like, yeah, you'll see Rohan in the second movie. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I mean, there's certain directors that we touched. Like, I don't think I've seen, like, a single Kubrick movie.
Oh, really? You've seen Tarantino, right?
I've seen both Kill Bills, Django Unchained, and Pulp Fiction. Oh yeah, and Inglourious Bastards.
Okay, so you haven't seen my favorite, Reservoir Dogs. Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, I did. I saw that one with you in university.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah, right.
Hamza did, like, the prequel to Normie Corner way back in the day. With him, I saw that. I saw Goodfellas. Oh, I mean, Kung Fu Hustle I've seen.
Yeah.
Because that's, like, my dad's favorite movie.
Yeah, but I showed him, like, The Raid, Night Comes for Us, like a good chunk of action movies I showed him, but he hasn't seen Police Story yet. So, like, yeah, like, that's, like, something I look forward to, like, seeing, like, what his reaction to be to the Police Story movies. Yeah.
Yeah, and even in the realm of fantasy, like, I haven't seen the original, like, Conan movie, even though I'm not sure how iconic that one is. If that's, like...
That is iconic, but it's, like, really camp. So yeah, but, like,
you're like that and Highlander, I've heard, or, like,
Highlander, I haven't seen myself, so it could be, like, a normie corner for both of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully you guys like that. I think we'll end it here. If you guys have any recommendations for movies,
yeah, it has to be like basically. I mean, we could do like smaller movies that aren't as famous, but they're still good. I think like Shaheen would like them. For example, there's a Hobo with a Shotgun.
I remember seeing trailers for that. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
seen
so like
it.
so it doesn't have to be like all those big movies. It could be like small cult movies. Like I mean, it could be movies like good movies in general that we don't necessarily get to talk about. But again, it doesn't really fall into like anime, otaku, comic book culture. It's like more general and stuff. So like yeah, again, we'll see about TV shows, but like movies, it's like an easy thing for us to do. Yeah,
I would laugh if someone comments and they're like Iron Man.
Okay, Marvel and DC don't put superhero movie. I mean, we could, but like we've seen them all.
I mean, I feel like that just could be like a normal because we talk about comic books anyway. So if it's going to be a comic book movie, it's like
yeah, we could just talk about it. I guess
it's just a normal episode.
Yeah, it's just a normal. It's not really like we would call it a normie corner, like spin-off episode. You could say, yeah.
Also, that'd be wild. It's like normie corner, superhero. And I don't know, superhero movies kind of became like a normie thing, but that's like,
yeah. But I mean, you guys get it, like what we're talking about here.
Yeah,
it's like like basically
normie as in a perspective of a weeb.
Yeah, from a weeb's perspective, like Lord of the Rings does not fall into that like easily, but like superheroes kinda does, because like especially with like Mario Academia and One Punch Man nowadays, it's like and like there's a lot of crossover between battle shonen fans and superhero fans. So like yeah. So that's why I don't necessarily consider it. Also, like if you read manga, you read comic books. That's what we do. It's like they go.
Well, I wish more people did that. Unfortunately, it seems like
people kind of like stick to one. Yeah, tribalism. But like, but for us, to me, I don't know. I can see them going hand in hand. I like seeing like how they both evolve and like learn or like take from each other. So it's like I don't know. To me, that's like they're kind of like sisters or brothers in a way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm making a video on it. It's just I haven't had the most amount of time for it. But I really do think if you're reading one but not the other, you're like really missing out.
Yeah, I agree with that. True as well. Yeah.
I highly recommend checking out both. If you're a little tired of one, maybe read comics, or if you're a little tired of comics, maybe check out manga. At the end of the day, it's comic book storytelling.
True, all of it is technically. Even heck, I've started reading webtoons, which is like another like medium of its own, which like also has been like a fascinating journey of like, oh my god! Like,
I mean, so like most countries have their own forms of comics. There's still the whole European, French comics. There's Korean manhwa and
right, yeah.
Forgot what Chinese comics are called.
Manhua, I believe, is the
okay. Yeah, so there's like whole world of comic book storytelling out there.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I always find limiting yourself. Like, of course, you have to put some kind of limit. I don't think you can be fans of like all of them. That's way too much.
Yeah, like for example, like I can't get manhua legally, or like even scan wise, I don't know where to look for them because like any of the websites I use don't have them. So I would love to read them. I know some titles are like really really popular, but like I can't find them. But I'm like, you know what? Listen, I'm doing comics. I'm doing manga. I'm now even starting webtoons. Like, I have enough on my plate. There's only so much I can do. So yeah.
Time is limited. At least pick up American comics and manga. At least
those are the easiest one to access to. Yeah, even webtoons are easy to end up doing. One of those three or a combination of those three. Yeah.
It'll do you some good. But with that, Falcon Punchers, as always, keep on punching, and we'll see you guys in the next Punchcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye.